Hey there, listeners. It's good to see you. If you're a regular on the show, it's great to have you back. If we kept you waiting, we apologize. Our first guest is a busy guy. He got pulled into something, and so we couldn't start on schedule. But our second guest was kind enough to come in a little bit early. Utsav, what are instant noodles doing on your desk over there? What are you doing?
I'm going to have them during the show. It's my midday snack, and Bhuman was kind enough to send over some samples. I've been a regular consumer of his pasta. My entire home loves it. So I'm glad that we have him on his show to talk about his company and the brand that he's built. I'll try a bite when I'm not speaking because apparently they're very, very spicy. Something that we'll take to test today, basically.
Because you and your family have got taste. What can I say?
Wicked good taste.
Right.
Awesome. So for our listeners, please describe the brand portfolio. What have you built? And spend a couple of minutes talking about what WickedGud does.
Firstly, extremely excited to be here. To all the people who are listening, thank you for making this community what it is today. And thank you, Utsav and Dhruv, for this entire knowledge session with various founders in the ecosystem. Really, really, really required for all budding entrepreneurs there. So WickedGud, this is my second venture. If some people who know me, just a quick background on myself. Did my undergrad from BITS Pilani, went to MBA at INSEAD, worked at the Boston Consulting Group, London office, did a lot of consumer goods cases across Europe, but always wanted to be the entrepreneur. Came in India 2016, started TGL, the premium tea and coffee brand, exited to Nest Vadia from the Vadia group, and now building WickedGud. That's me in a nutshell. Basically, our food is crude. All the empty calories, the sugar, oil, the carbs, the mystery of artificial elements that one can't even pronounce made us think twice before consuming them, let alone our family. And when we realized we weren't alone, we thought we should change it. If you look at any consumer packaged food today, it's dominated by four ingredients: maida, palm oil, sugar, and chemicals. I think our families deserve better, which brought us to the mission statement, Unjunk India, one kitchen at a time. The brand promise became wicked taste and good ingredients. So anything that lies at the confluence of the two, we'd like to enter in terms of categories. The problem we're solving is a problem in every household, including mine. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. My wife and the 4-year-old keep quarreling on what to eat and what not to eat. Kids end up dictating consumer behavior. Mothers end up domesticating junk. So if there is a way to create a win-win where kids get to eat the junk and mothers get to give it to them without two thoughts, that's the problem we're solving at WickedGud.
Awesome. And you had a meeting, I mean, before we kick things off with like the actual brand story and the business itself, you had a meeting with the finance minister as well?
Yeah, that was insane. I got this call from someone from the Ministry of Finance. They were curating this 20 or 15 to 20 startup founders to talk about the pre-budget. So they typically do this before every budget just to understand pain points. And each of the founders were from different sectors. So I think I represented it, consumer goods. And yeah, she was very, she heard all the problems. She's extremely sharp. It just, makes you feel that, the country is in the safest of hands possible. And then, of course, she took all our insights. I spoke personally about working capital because that's a big challenge for all young. I mean, there are these CGT, MSE schemes out there, but trust me, none of the bankers will give you that loan without 50 to 70% collateral, which means it's not really a loan. It's just, taking X and getting 0.7X. That doesn't make any sense.
Dude, they're not spicy. They're not that spicy. I think you can increase the spice level a little bit more.
Okay, so then you have Korean noodles much more often then. Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Americans and the Europeans might find it spicy, but yeah, I'm good right now.
Lovely. Perfect.
Yeah. So your request was on working credit, working capital credit as well. But what were the other requests that came through in the room?
Multiple people were from defense, people were from deep tech. Aman Gupta was there. He spoke about ESOPs, taxation around ESOPs, about going global, many things. I mean, there was someone who was from vending machine, Dalchini startup. She spoke about multiple issues, various. There was a professor from IIM, don't remember, 𝐈𝐧𝐝𝐷𝐼𝐼𝐶𝐽. And he spoke about the fact that there was very less funding and grants and incubation level funds available at a government level. And then, he was presented with how many funds there have been in the last 12 months. So in terms of data, in terms of collation of understanding of what is happening where, I think full marks to the Ministry of Finance. I think they completely on top of things know exactly what's happening where, and where there were issues, they were listening. They were typically listening, and there was someone taking notes. There was the chief economic advisor as well. He was also giving his input. So very well arranged meeting, very well curated. And she did it with all the large companies as well. It was not only us. We were just, I mean, probably the smallest out of all the meetings that she did.
Nice. And do you expect there to be follow-up from this meeting? Like, will they follow up?
Yeah, I mean,
or is
angel
this
angel tax abolition was outcome of one of such meetings. So I'm
Oh,
sure there will be follow-up. I'm sure there will be a lot of more interaction, and hopefully all the points that were raised will definitely be implemented.
nice.
So, Bhuman, you mentioned 4 ingredients, right? That the large CPG companies use in these well-loved products and brands. Like,
Absolutely.
when did it come to that? Like, why just these 4? Why are they so important to that industrial process?
Well, very simple answer, cost, right? I mean, for the kind of material that you want to create and for the kind of price expectations consumers in India have. And now I think we all are equally responsible for it. We've been spoiled for choice. We've been given things at a platter at a certain price. So we expect that from every category, whatever be the outcome in terms of health. So people are not still large part of mass premium India doesn't, or rather is not willing to pay that additional amount for healthier products. So you see a lot of better for you brands out there, which are priced, let's say 2x, 3x in certain categories, but the volumes of those products are very low. If you really want to go mass premium in India, the thesis we have is no more than 20-30% than your rank one brand. No one will pay more than that. So if you see our products, 15 rupee Maggi, 28 rupee Maggi atta, we are at 20 rupees for a single pack of noodles.
And that's the thing that we've seen on this show. We've had many better for you brands like Super You and many others who've come and spoken about how they're not trying to replace the existing habit. What they're trying to do is like basically give you better options for that particular
I'm a
habit.
classic example of this. Let me tell you how we started WickedGud. The product we started with is discontinued. We started with a gluten-free pasta made out of chickpea, red lentil, brown rice, and tapioca starch. As much as I can still swear by the product, it will give you probably 2x the protein and 4x the fiber as compared to regular pasta. It did not scale beyond a point in mass premium India because the insight we got is an average Indian cooks pasta in a pressure cooker. Now you put a gluten-free product in a pressure cooker, it's going to disintegrate into a mush. So we started getting complaints around आपका pasta टूट जा रहा है या आपका pasta. And then when we figured that they make it in a cooker, there's no point educating consumers at that level. It's much easier if you change the recipe, add some durum wheat semolina in it, and there's also the good stuff. So overall, it's a better for you product than a significantly better product. So it's like a very thin line for a better for you founder today between selling your soul literally and offering what consumers want. Even the noodles that we launched, they were SCAT technology, steaming, convection, air drying, not a drop of oil in it. They did scale, but not to the extent that we wanted. We removed it. Today, our products are all fried, but instead of frying it in palm oil, it's fried in rice bran oil. So the saturated fat is lower. So these are multiple instances where we've pivoted from our product strategy and come to now a product which is well accepted by mass premium India.
And what's next for you then?
Well, I think the noodle category in India is very large, and it's dominated by one or two players. So there's a huge scope to sort of come into that or penetrate that using flavor profiles. So if I were to go on head on and just offer that masala noodle variant, I will succeed because the healthier batch will probably switch to us, or maybe the Gen Z batch will shift to us. But it's going to be an uphill task in terms of distribution, in terms of money spent. So the better way would be to offer flavor profiles that people haven't really seen before. So
as we talk more about what's next, tell us, how do you go from like idea or discovery of what category to enter to actual product? Like what's
a
the
lot of research, a lot of talking to category managers across the platform. So we enjoy a very good relationship with Reliance and DMart, We speak to them very often, especially Reliance. We're there in, I think, 1,676 stores. That's the latest count that we have. So we speak to the category team to understand what's the need of the hour. We do our own dipstick at outside stores or outside large public areas to understand the need of the hour when it comes to noodles, when it comes to pasta, when it comes to price points, ingredients. And then we cater to a certain profile basis that we use a lot of universities that come for collabs with us and use their ecosystem to do research work for us. So, for example, if there's a university in Pune, we'll ask them for Maharashtra region if you can give us what kind of flavor profiles are accepted by Mass Premium India in lieu of certain amount of time that we generate and give their entrepreneurial section, etc., etc. So we've done this and we've gotten a lot of data. So, for example, the next product that we are launching is the Korean chili cheese and the Korean chili chicken version. And that's because the Korean version, which you just tasted, and the pack version combined are the best sellers in the company today. In fact, if you go on Blinkit today, right now, as we talk, we've taken over the page. You'll see our banner on the homepage with the Korean product.
Awesome. But I mean, another question for you, a more cultural one. Why are these Korean things taking over? Like, I mean, Boba also has a Korean range, and like, I mean, K-pop is taking over India. Like, how is
For
it?
starters, the cultures are very similar. Second, K-pop, Netflix, Gen Z's liking for Korean really shot up in during the lockdown. So if let's look at Samyang and Nongshim, because I'm in the noodle category, I can talk about them better. Until 2019, they were really non-existent. I've spoken to the distributors and importers of both. Very, very small, very, very non-existing, growing nonetheless month on month, year on year. Come COVID, come the lockdown, come people stop going out to restaurants for consuming, wanted to have the same kind of food at home. And that's when players like Nongshim, Samyang, uh, many other brands now as well, I see Current, which is from Nepal, have really shot up and people have started to consume it much more than earlier. And then, of course, the entire Netflix K-pop drama, that angle really helps. There are so many Korean influencers now in India who are doing crazy amount of content and very similar culturally.
Influencers in India. Wow.
Yeah, so many of them. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really outdated. Dhruv, do you know this trend?
Which one? About Korean influencers?
Yeah, Korean influencers in India.
Not so much. I mean, I see Korean influence in retail going through the roof, but I didn't know this. Yeah.
Crazy.
Bhuvan, so here's a question for you. Really, from the point of view of young founders who want to build brands like yours, when we read reports, there's all sorts of customer segments people come up with, really fancy things to call them. But on the ground, in practice, how does it really work? How do you go and segment customers? How do you decide these are the people we're going to go after? These are people we just simply cannot sell to. How does that process work in practice?
There's no hard and fast rule for this. There's no rule book.
That's number one.
Yeah, that's number one. I mean, don't try to make a rule book. Okay, I'm only going to target SEC India 1 or 18 to 24. You'll fail because you don't know at the start who's going to consume what. I think with time, you realize with the kind of repeats that you get, with the kind when you start talking. So as a founder, again, I love to talk to consumers probably once a week, pick a call, whoever ordered last on your website, randomly choose across profiles just to understand what did they like about the product, where did they see it, what flavor profiles do they prefer, would they buy it again, at what price point, if they bought in a discount, would they buy it at full price, if they bought it at full price, do they feel they overpaid for something, or do they like it, why did they like it. You just have to talk to people. And if you have presence in retail like Reliance, as I said, 1,600 stores, we have about 50 promoters servicing these stores. So also talk to those promoters in specific to certain regions. So as Utsav said, he didn't find that noodle spicy. You go to Northeast India, and if you get this noodle, they'll drink the water as if they're drinking normal water. They didn't find it spicy either. So I'm coming up with a version which is a, I don't know, 5x spicy version just for Northeast India. Even the Korean chili chicken is mainly catering to the Northeast of India. So
you've got some really cool colors on the branding, by the way. Love it.
That's entirely Elephant Design. So 38-year-old design agency based out of Pune.
Yeah.
Ashwini Deshpande is on the cap table. That sort of uh, really helped us initially to build this brand. And that's the magic of Elephant Design. They break the clutter. Shilpa Shetty on the pack adds to trust among consumers, etc. So yeah, I mean, everything is thoughtfully done. It took a lot of time. If I were to say, oh, I already knew it because of A, B, C, I'm going to be lying.
Yeah.
Everything is trial and error. It takes a lot of effort, but you need to, I mean, a mistake is a mistake when made twice. Otherwise, it's a learning. So
Yeah.
go by that thought process and don't make more mistakes is all I can say.
Can you also talk to us a little bit about distribution cracking, distribution online, offline, quick
So
com?
if you look at better for you brands today, you ask them what's your split, they'll say 80 to 90% online, 10 to 20% offline. You ask Wicked Good what's the split, it's 60% online, 40% offline. So we are one of those very few brands. Either we are underpenetrated online, which also I always feel, I mean, a founder feels he's underpenetrated everywhere, but also we're done decently well offline. So if you look at offline, let's break it into MT and GT. For us, by definition, MT is Reliance and DMart because it constitutes 80% of MT anyway. Everything else comes under GT. In Reliance, as I said, it took us, we started with 25 stores in India. Today, we're there in 1600. With DMart, we started with 3 stores in Mumbai. Today, we're there in about 40. So it took time, effort. It's not like we've still, hit the moon there. So many issues, so much of, I mean, these are all good problems to have now. But I think with time, we'll figure that out. And cracking Reliance and DMart is critical because you understand the pulse of common man in this country. They are the ones who go and shop in a Reliance and a DMart. It's not typically you. I didn't even know where the nearest Reliance was next to my house. But when you go and you just spend 1 hour or 2 hours in a Reliance store on, let's say, a Friday evening or a Saturday afternoon, that's when you'll realize the pulse of this country. And then, of course, you have, the greatness of Mr. Damodar Mal. You just read his book, Supermarket Wala, and, it's like a crash course of an MBA in that much time. So brilliant stuff. Now, if you look at GT, again, need to know what to crack and where. Again, look at data from the likes of a Nestle, the likes of an ITC. Where do they actually sell their noodles? And you will see a lot of it is in the northeast of the country because that's staple food for them. They have it 4 times a day. So if you were to crack the northeast, what will it take to get there? Firstly, none of the startup brands are even visible because it's extremely difficult to crack that part. You need to understand by region by region. Today, if you go in Sikkim, there are at least 500 stores that have Wicked Good stocked in. If you go to Manipur or if you go to Mizoram, there are a lot of stores that at least A plus counters that stock us. So typically pick a place, pick A plus counters, start doing your sales. Don't think about ROI initially. Start doing your bit, and then automatically you'll see there'll be, so either you have to shut down a territory or you'll have to go double down on it. So that's how, again, trial and error. It's not like we've seen success everywhere. We were in Madhya Pradesh at one point. Today we aren't, other than Reliance stores. We were in a lot of Pune at one point in GT. Today it's much lesser than what it was. So we've learned it. We were in Goa at one point. Today we aren't. So we've picked our territories, picked our battles, and fighting it every day. GT is the toughest, but GT gives you the highest profit margin.
So Wicked Good, I know you do a lot of noodles. Sorry, before this thing, because he's talking about territories, and if you do a trip to the hills, if you're from Delhi or visiting Mussoorie and stuff, I think true PMF in India would be when instead of Maggie, you're serving Wicked Good.
Absolutely agreed. So that's my next. I mean, Himachal and Uttarakhand are, the next focus areas for us. But again, I don't want to just go there and dump stock and come back. I want to do it in a certain way. So first, I'm finding the right distributor and the right manpower to service it. And then if you go to J&K, for example, especially Kashmir, even in places like Baramulla or Srinagar, etc., you'll see a lot of Wicked Good pasta being sold there. You'd be surprised. I thought noodle consumption would be high because of the cold, but it's actually pasta that moves really well. They love their pasta.
Something
70%
for your next trip to Kashmir. Dhruv is from Kashmir.
From Jammu, but in the neighboring territories. Hey, also a question on Bhuman, a question on brand positioning itself, right? Like, and I think it's downstream of how well you understand your consumers. But what are people really buying from Wicked Good when they buy your products? Is it convenience? Is it taste? Is it novelty? Is it health?
So we're a noodle company that also sells pasta and chips. That's the average conception in an average Indian head. or at least one of our consumers. Now, within the noodle, I think they're buying taste. Every noodle consumer today, 70-80% of them are buying taste. They're not buying health. So the initial proposition of SCAD technology, etc., beyond a point did not scale. So we had to get the taste right. So if you have the Korean noodle, which you did, it's very much in terms of the Indian part, the Indian masalas, you'll really taste well. Even if you have our masala noodle, it's very similar to the rank one brand out there. In terms of aroma, in terms of look and feel, in terms of taste, etc., aftertaste, very similar. So then if you come to know, oh, by the way, this is also healthy. It has no maida, it has no palm oil. So it always starts with taste. And then, of course, the convenience of cup noodles really helps. We have 8% category share in cup noodles in Reliance and 6% category share in atta noodles. So that again really helps us.
As a final closing question, Bhuman, uh, as you think about what's next for WickedGud, what's your process to rule out things not to do, basically? Like, I mean, rule out things that you would not do, basically.
I mean, you have to see numbers, right? I mean, the numbers are the best ways of, like, for example, why did we
Earlier, like suppose you're doing your research as well, and you've had your hunch that suppose Maggie is being sold at X price, and you can't get your product close by to that in terms of pricing via your product discovery roadmap. Do you just rule it out, or are there other considerations as well?
GT, I mean, in India, FMCG, 20 rupee, 30 rupee, nothing beyond that. First rule. Otherwise, you're going to be alienating it to very few outlets. So, I mean, at a basic level, no more than 20, 30 rupees. If it's a cup noodle, then yes, slightly more is fine. 40, again, 40 rupees, 50 rupees max. Anything beyond 50 rupees, a big red flag for mass premium consumption in India. Second, go after secondary sale, don't go after primary sale. We've all seen enough of it, enough of IPOs, enough of pre-IPOs, enough of all of that data we've seen. But I don't see any merit in dumping. It does help in the short run, but as long as secondary sale doesn't happen, primary will never happen. So our entire focus is not to focus on primary, just to focus on secondary. So these are two things that definitely a no-go before launching anything.
Awesome, Bhuman. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us your insights. Also, listeners, there's a special discount code. You can see it in the ticker below. It's called MEGA40. It's valid until Sunday. So go buy your WickedGud products now. Cheers.
Perfect. Lovely being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Bhuman.
Thanks, Bhuman. Noodles for dinner for all.
Awesome. So we spoke about noodles now. Let's switch gears and head to the world of finance, where Nitin is joining us and he's going to give us his insights. I know Bhuman was saying that the finance minister was talking about, or he was talking about working capital being one of the requirements that startups face very regularly. So Nitin, welcome to the show and let's dive in. You're dialing in from a car?
Yeah, I am Utsav and Dhruv. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey,
I
Nitin.
sincerely apologize for the delay. It's been one heck of a day, and I just said let's stall the car somewhere. Let's have a conversation with you. So again, I'm sorry for the delay.
Dani, thank you so much. We really appreciate the effort you made and given us the time also. So for our listeners who are hearing about OfBusiness for the first time, maybe spend 2 minutes just explaining the business.
Yeah, so this is the business that we've scaled for the past 10 years, and this is the business that we scaled for the SMEs. The SMEs essentially, face two major problems. One is procurement of raw materials at a good rate, and the second is working capital. So we're solving both the problems at the same time for them.
And what kind of
Yes.
categories are you in the raw materials
So
space?
we are in four major categories. One is metals and non-ferrous. So that's ferrous and non-ferrous. So that includes your steel, your TMT bars, your flat steels, your aluminum, zinc, lead, etc. The second category is chemicals and polymers. The third category is agri products. And the fourth category is textiles. So these are the four categories, and we're essentially trying to benefit the SMEs through working capital. So we're trying to disintermediate the chain of dealers and distributors, right? And that's one. But the second major problem that the SMEs face is working capital. So we have an NBFC which essentially provides working capital financing to the SMEs to ease their burden of getting finance from local distributors, which is very expensive. So that's essentially what we do.
And then you have a very, very interesting model where you go full circle, right? From helping people secure a bid on a tender to acquire goods for it? Can you just walk us through that, the whole model?
Yeah. Traditionally, if you talk about B2B in India, right? So how do you bring about that engagement and that tech play? So normally what happens, right? So let's talk about a user journey. Let's talk about an SME. SME typically would be deploying about 4 or 5 people, right? Who, let's say you talk about an infrastructure contractor that is building a road in Nagpur. Let's say they're trying to secure a 200 crore contract. What would they normally do? They would try to go to government websites. They would try and through 5 people that they've deployed, try and secure the contract, or at least try and see which contract to bid for. Then they'll bid for the contract, they'll get the contract. Then they start sourcing the raw materials, and then they'll figure out, okay, yeah, they don't have enough money. Then they'll go and request distributors, okay, can you give me the required raw material for 30 or 60 days credit? And then they stretch it to 90 days, because 90 days is the real working capital cycle for them. So we said that, listen, one, we're solving the raw material procurement for them. Second, we are solving the working capital for them as well. But third, how do you keep them engaged, right? So how do you solve this using a tech platform? So we figured out a very, very smart way in which we said that, listen, all the working capital all the tenders that are there, we'll give it to them on a silver platter. We know their profile. We know what kind of tenders they're good for. They're good to bid for. We'll give it to them using an AI platform. And once they're looking at the tender or bidding for the tender, they automatically become potential customer for us. So the lead acquisition for us is solved. The engagement is solved because they're continuously visiting our website. And then we are able to easily solve the raw material supply and financing aspect for them.
Interesting. So you're basically doing demand gen using this method as well. And I think that's, quite tremendous. But so where does the money come from? Like, what are the big profit pools or sources of profit pools for the business right now? Because you have so many different lines going on.
Yeah, we in fact have also started manufacturing, right? So we have a lot of data about distribution of raw materials. So we know we have a lot of demand that we aggregate. So we know which profit pools to play in, or we know which supply chains to play in. So essentially, we end up making money in 3 aspects, right? So one is obviously raw material supply chain, the aggregation platform. The second is on the financing bit. We have an NBFC, so we lend at lower than what a distributor would give you credit at, right? So obviously it's slightly higher than a bank, but we end up helping them save much, much more because we're giving them raw materials at a lower rate. So that's the second profit pool. The third is that we analyze pockets of these supply chains, and then we end up telling them that, listen, we will only supply the raw material to you. So we end up making money on the manufacturing side, but ultimately giving them a better product and a better quality product. So these are the 3 profit pools essentially.
Literally full stack. If you're,
it is a full stack play.
Like, if you're going into manufacturing as well. So what factories do you run now to make what?
So in fact, in all the verticals, we run factories. So in steel, we're running a TMT factory and a structures factory. In agri products, we run a nuts factory, we run a pickles factory. So essentially, first we started with aggregation, then we realized, we can either go, we can either backward integrate or forward integrate. In textiles, we started with yarn, and then we forward integrated into garments and accessories like your bags, belts. So we run those factories. And we are in fact now one of the largest in India, right? Now, apart from that, we run a chemicals factory as well, where we manufacture ethyl acetate. So that's something that we are potentially going to be venturing into agrochemicals. So all these are the factories that we run, and we managed to do this because we had the demand and we had the distribution set up. So otherwise, it's very difficult to set up a manufacturing unit.
Never wants to shy away from sort of rolling your sleeves and doing the hard work, Nitin. How have you designed the organization that's able to do so much?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the power of that's the culture that we built, right? So we essentially from day one have got people who are independent and not from the industry. I think that's really worked well for us, right? So we hire people straight out of MBA colleges. We essentially train them for about 3 to 4 years, and then they become independent business owners, and then they're able to run entire P&Ls on their own, right? So they have a lot of responsibility that they take on themselves, and they don't come with any kind of baggage. So they're able to think out of the box, they're able to think growth, they're able to think profit. So that's how we essentially cater to all these guys, to all these sectors. And we've not found an issue as such, right? So we've got a I would say a blueprint that really scales, right? So even when we acquire a factory, we don't really think about who's going to manage it, right? That's the least of our worries. all we think about is how can we scale that particular factory in a very, very efficient manner, and can we improve profitability. So we never have to worry about talent. That's something that we've solved from day one. And we hire talent not from the industry, and that's really what's worked for us. It's a bit counterintuitive, but it's really it's worked for us very, very well.
Nice. And how many people work at the OfBusiness group now?
It's close to about 1,500 odd in the corporate office, but otherwise, if you include all the factory workers across, we got about 33,000 people.
Wow. Wow. And what does the scale of OfBusiness look like in terms of just financial numbers?
Yeah, close to about, I can't disclose the last year numbers, but it'll be in the region of close to about 22,000 crores plus. That's the top line.
Amazing. And you've converted to a public entity as well, so IPO on the roadmap?
Yeah, again, I don't want to comment on that, but yeah, I mean, every company's dream is to IPO, right? So that's our dream as well, because we want to see the ticker on the stock market.
Wishing you the best. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be good fun.
How's the way you spend your time personally been changing over the years, Nitin? And I've asked you this once before in person, I think for the benefit of our listeners as well.
So I'm a builder, right? So essentially, OfBusiness is at a place where I'm also essentially looking for my next big thing. So I essentially would be starting my own company very, very soon, and essentially that's going to be in a new space. OfBusiness is in a great place, honestly. So I'm thinking about starting something in the electronic manufacturing services place. So I spent about thinking about new verticals altogether. How can I add value in new verticals? So that's essentially, that's about me a little bit.
But tell us a little bit about electronics manufacturing. I think that space has been pretty exciting, right? With the whole Make in India campaign that was started a few years ago, and any kind of schemes that are promoting entrepreneurship in this space.
Yeah, so I'll tell you something about electronic manufacturing which really fascinates me, right? So it's a $100 billion industry at the moment in India. It's a $2.3 trillion industry worldwide, and it's the fastest growing in India, third fastest growing in the world. And there are 1 billion plus SKUs that the companies procure all over the world. And the design changes are every 6 months for the components and the finished products combined. So it's a very, very interesting space. So this is one. And second, the geopolitical issues that are essentially there, right? With the Trump tariffs, with the China rare earth materials, with everyone trying to become quote unquote Atmanirbhar or self-reliant, with the wars that are going on. So there is a lot of activity which is going on in this particular space. And electronics, it goes into defense, it goes into consumer electronics, it goes into automobiles. And you stop one component, then the entire supply chain stops. So that is what really fascinated me about this particular supply chain, And we're trying to solve the entire supply chain issues, how the procurement can be done. What is the potential for manufacturing within India? Can we figure out pools, or can we figure out certain components that we can manufacture in India, help companies buy better? So we're working on all these issues and problems.
And who are the big chip manufacturers now? I remember some announcements coming out as well in India.
Yeah, so India, everyone is trying to dipstick into the chip manufacturing, although chip manufacturing in India is not at the level at which Taiwan is. So Taiwan at the moment has reached 2 nanometers. India at the moment is still thinking about manufacturing 28 nanometers because there is no manufacturing which goes on in India, right? So India is far behind. So the scope for innovation and growth in India is immense, right? So we're not known as a deep tech country, but things are really, really changing. So obviously Gujarat and Chennai as a hub, so they're setting up manufacturing units with top people like SGS and the other guys, the top guys. They're thinking about setting up plants for chip manufacturing, but it's going to be about 2 to 3 years before we really get there. But slightly lesser innovative components like your capacitors, resistors, thermistors, etc. I think that space is really heating up because you can easily get the technology from outside and you can easily set up a plant and really make India self-reliant. I think that's a big, big challenge that the companies are trying to solve. And government is giving huge amounts of PLIs, subsidies to solve this particular problem.
And isn't the demand for some of these components sort of inversely proportional to how sophisticated they are? In other words, the 28 nanometer chips, like people need a lot more of them than they need the 2 nanometer chips.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you look at defense as a sector, right, they're not going to change their designs to accommodate 2 nanometer chips like every 6 months, right? So whatever was working in defense 10 years before is still working right now. So yes, the demand for the 28 nanometer chips is extremely high because they're cheaper as well. The demand for 2 nanometer chips is lower, but in India, we still are one of the biggest consumers of the 28 nanometer chips or,
Yeah.
slightly higher
Yeah.
nanometer chips. So obviously, India has chosen to go down the path of saying that, listen, fine, we will manufacture the 28 nanometer chips. We will set up manufacturing. We will learn and then go to the 2 nanometer chips, or the path to 2 nanometer chips is not easy, right? So 28 nanometer chips, Taiwan was manufacturing 2015, and we are getting there, right? So we're still far behind. We are about 10 years behind Taiwan and maybe even China for that matter.
And you
So
mentioned
it's a very, very interesting space. Very interesting space.
you mentioned supply chain a few times. So I'm treating
Yeah.
you to the supply chain guy. So you treat everything as a supply chain problem, like I think, or you observe it with
It is
that.
it is a supply chain optimization problem, right? So what is a supply chain? Supply chain has multiple variables, right? Ultimately, what are you trying to do? You're trying to optimize using those variables and try and get the best possible costing for the client, right? That's what you do. Ultimately, that's what we did at OfBusiness as well. Now, the variables here are a lot more. So ultimately, you got geopolitical variables along with obsolescence variables, along with design change variables, along with price variables, along with number of components, right? So your optimization problem contains a lot many variables, and ultimately everything is a supply chain optimization problem, right? So that's what we're trying to do. So we're not trying to essentially get into manufacturing, but even if we were to get into manufacturing, it is a supply chain optimization problem. So what is it that you want to manufacture that you can easily produce in India? What is it that you can manufacture which you can easily compete with China? Because China, the costing is super, super, super low. How do you compete with that to start manufacturing in India and start getting in the middle of the supply chain? So everything is a supply chain optimization problem, in my opinion.
All right, Dhruv, any final question for Nitin before we let him move again on the road?
Maybe it's a question on China, Nitin. What do you think is like, where are they heavily misunderstood?
China?
Yeah, from a manufacturing
I,
standpoint.
I think you have to be there to really understand how far ahead they are. I mean, they're just insanely far ahead of India and the other countries. I would even go to the extent of saying they're far ahead of US as well. And they don't advertise it as much. I think they're far, far ahead. To compete with them at a global stage is very, very, very difficult, right?
So you're
And how we
talking
compete is
innovation, you're
in
talking capacity, you're talking just the availability of skilled
everything,
manpower.
everything, right? Their ability to upskill their people, their ability to innovate, not only on hardware, but also in software, their ability to create capacities, their ability to manufacture at the lowest possible cost. Because, if India, let's say, tomorrow starts manufacturing at something at 15 cents a dollar, 15 cents a component, they will come back tomorrow and start manufacturing the same component at 8 to 10 cents. And India will have to counter that by imposing import duties. That's how strong they are. That's how innovative they are, right? They know when to drop the prices. They know when to change the components. They know when to really, really hammer down a particular supply chain. They're far ahead of anyone else. I mean, they're heavily underestimated. I would say still underestimated. No, we think that we can decouple from China. We are playing up the China plus one story, but we are at least a decade behind. Let me just tell you that. Saying that, there is a huge opportunity in front of us as well if we put our minds to it. But there has to be a strong ecosystem emerging which says that, okay, we are ready to compete with China. We need patient capital. We need the government support as well, because without the government support, this is not going to happen. But we're slowly but steadily getting there. I think we've been woken up with the recent events. I really hope we can get there, very soon. Where we invest heavily in R&D. India R&D spend is about 0.6% of the GDP, right? China's is close to about 2.3 to 2.5 to 3%. Just look at the R&D and going on over there. It's crazy. And we're a 4 trillion economy, and they're about
It's on a
20,
larger
right?
base as well, yeah.
The base is also very, very high. So imagine the kind of spend that they're doing.
All right, listeners, anyone who's tuning in, that I think is a solid motivation to get working for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, Nitin. Hope you have a safe ride
Thank you
ahead.
so much. Thanks so much. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
for coming and sharing, Nitin.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much. All right. Bye-bye.
All right, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember the discount code as well, and also the motivational ending that Nitin has given us. So let's get back to work. Let's bring manufacturing back to India. Have a good one. See you. Bye-bye.